Welcome back to part two. We've got the illustrious Ryan Zemansky in the Huff Duff office aboard USS Slater. And I'm a schoolboy ready to learn about Huff Duff from the expert.
So, warships have a number of ways of detecting submarines. Sonar works great when they're underwater. Radar works great when you're within range to use that radar. But Huff Duff, or high-frequency direction finders, enable you to determine where another ship is, in this case a submarine, based on their radio transmissions. So very common for German U-boats, or Japanese I-boats, or rowboats to transmit out their headings, their positions, and whatnot. They have to report in periodically so that Fleet Command knows that they're still there and what they're up to. And in particular with the Germans, this is important because they need to radio sightings in so that the rest of the wolf pack can be directed to that target. So the Allies figure out pretty early on that you can triangulate your position to a target from those signals. And so this is the device that would do it, and we're roughly beneath the main mast on Slater, which is a much stubbier structure than the foremast, but would have like a diamond-shaped antenna on top of it that can pick up those radio signals. And essentially, you're just turning a dial on here to pick up, as the frequency is increasing, like what direction it's coming from. And at a certain bearing, you'll see that it is as loud as possible, and as you start to go past that bearing, it gets quieter again. And so that has helped you triangulate down exactly the position where that submarine is right now. And you know if it's transmitting, it's on the surface. So you can start running in that direction to try and catch it. And you may even be able to catch it on the surface, which is significantly easier to deal with a submarine there than once they've submerged.
The German U-boats really helped in their own destruction because their communication protocols were very lax. Admiral Dönitz would send copious orders out to his U-boats. Shift your position, go here, do that. Send me a daily radio report of the weather conditions. And most importantly, when he sent radio messages out to the fleet or the wolf packs, he wanted each boat to send a confirmation receipt. Again, the German hubris was, if we can't find within 100 miles, that's the best we can do. No one else can do better. Well, we have to give credit to the British. They were able to detect with much finer definition the exact location. And of course, this is a local tactical Huff Duff. They had strategic Huff Duff. They lined the North Atlantic with receiving stations in Iceland, Greenland, Nova Scotia, the Maritimes. So when those U-boats, again, always on the surface, diving to avoid detection, would be chattering away, even if we can't penetrate Triton, which is the code for that's the Germans' name for their Enigma code for the U-boats, even if you can't read Triton that day, the very fact that you could triangulate the position of the U-boats is vital, because you can route the convoys around the known positions. Now, nothing's perfect, and there were some convoys that ran right into a large wolf pack, and we know what happened there. But from my reading, a lot of the U-boat commanders that really had a grasp for the strategic picture were saying amongst themselves, we can't possibly be seeing everything that's out there. They're getting around us. But apparently that idea never reached Admiral Dönitz, because he continued this demand to be chattering away. But in comparison, U.S. submarines rarely transmitted, and because we understood we're receiving, and only in rare cases are we going to put the antenna, get to the surface, or always on the surface really, but send a report out, because we understand the Japanese were never able, or the Germans were never able to read our codes. But the fear was they could triangulate, and it's not like a super secret concept, because even on the William G. Mather, an ore boat, a Great Lakes ore boat, She has a 1930s vintage radio direction finder. It basically tells you roughly where you're going based on picking up known shore radio stations. But this is a tactical system, and it has an incredible definition that, you know, the civilian units wouldn't have had. So it was known, but again, we have to give credit to the British. It really, they had the technology that was able to really pinpoint the U-boats, and that was so vital.
And it's worth pointing out that one unit like this on one ship just gives you a line of bearing to that target. You may be able to tell how close you are based on how loudly you're receiving that signal. And as you get closer, it will pick up in intensity. But if you have multiple ships that are dispersed and they're both getting a reading, a line of bearing, you can then triangulate that position, or more likely, that's what your strategic land points are able to do, and then radio in and get us, or our hunter-killer group that Slater would be a part of, to that area.
Again, yeah, the Battle of the Atlantic is, you know, there's no one magic bullet. There's just a vast array of technologies that are brought to bear against the U-boats. So, yeah, and in fact, like you said, these boats aren't working all alone. They're working in conjunction with others. So maybe you have a 10, 15 mile spread. So everybody's picking up that signal. So you'll be able to triangulate there. Again, the concept is there is no lone actor, you know, ship to sub engagement. As someone once said, that's fair, and that's not how you fight a war. You know, you bring a sledgehammer to kill the ant. And but I mean, you know, Huff Duff is just one in a vast array of detection, code breaking, signal intelligence, and Huff Duff. So, you know, it's funny. We have this perception that the Germans were technologically advanced. Well, that's because their propaganda minister said, we are so technologically advanced. The reality was, no, we were, but we kept our mouths shut, rightly so, and just shook our heads. And it certainly was helpful to keep the public focused on the war effort. But it was a lethal game. And again, we know the results. Nearly 80% of the U-boats are lost. And they never were able to deal a death blow to, thankfully, the Allied convoys crossing the Atlantic.
So your Huff Duff gets you within radar range, your radar picks up the boat, it dies when it sees you, and that's where your sonar takes over. So a number of sensors used in conjunction allows you to track down a U-boat and engage it.
Well, thanks for joining us. Again, remember, hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, and we've just been so honored to have the opportunity to be aboard the queen of the historic warship fleet, USS Slater. So remember, come back soon and we'll have more content for you.